The sky was a deep velvet black, studded with scattered stars barely visible through the thin veil of drifting clouds. The wind whispered through the tall pines surrounding the small property, carrying with it the crisp scent of pine needles and damp earth. In this quiet wilderness, the stillness was almost sacred, until Max's sharp, urgent barking shattered the calm like a gunshot. His voice was insistent, raw with urgency, echoing against the weathered wood of the old farmhouse and bouncing off the dark outline of the abandoned shed at the edge of the property. The dog's growls rippled beneath the barks, a warning woven into his frantic call. From the house next door, a faint silhouette stirred by the porch light. Mrs. Jenkins, the neighbor, muttered to herself, "Dogs bark at shadows all the time. Nothing new." Her voice was tired but dismissive. Across the street, a car slowed as the driver glanced toward the incessant noise, then shook his head and sped away. Inside the modest kitchen, Sarah's tired eyes flicked toward the window, her heart tightening with every sharp bark. She rubbed her temples, the fatigue of a long day pressing down on her, but the sound gnawed at something deeper, an instinct she couldn't ignore. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the way Max's voice broke the night. Peering out from the shadows near the porch, Sarah caught sight of Max's silhouette. His strong frame was tense, ears pinned forward, muscles taut like a coiled spring. His eyes reflected the faint moonlight, gleaming with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. He was fixated, not on a passing animal or the rustle of leaves, but on the old shed, its weather-beaten door hanging crooked and slightly ajar. The place had always felt off, a forgotten relic from decades past. But tonight, Max's gaze seemed to pierce through the shadows, sensing a presence Sarah couldn't see. Sarah's breath fogged the cold window pane as she weighed her options. Her body ached from the day's burdens, juggling work, motherhood, and the fragile thread holding her family together. Yet her instincts urged her forward. "Maybe it's just an animal caught inside," she whispered to herself, wrapping her arms around her chest. But the nagging dread grew, twisting in her stomach like a knot. Was she about to confront something dangerous? Or worse, something that might unravel the fragile safety she'd built? Suddenly, Max fell silent, his barking ceasing like a snapped wire. The night seemed to hold its breath. Then came the low, guttural growl that vibrated through the still air, a sound so primal it cut through Sarah's fear and commanded her attention. From the shed came a faint shuffling, the scrape of something moving just beyond the cracked door. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Was someone, or something, hiding inside? Her mind drifted briefly to the day she found Max as a puppy, abandoned and shivering under a highway overpass. Even then, his eyes held a wisdom far beyond his months, a silent promise to protect, to endure, and to stand guard against the darkness. That same fierce spirit was alive now, echoed in every tense muscle and every anxious whimper. Max wasn't barking out of fear. He was warning her, protecting her. Gathering her courage, Sarah slipped on her coat and stepped out onto the creaking porch. The cold air bit into her skin, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and pine. Shadows danced as the wind tugged at loose branches, and her flashlight cut a narrow beam through the darkness. Max was already ahead, a steady presence against the creeping night. Every step she took toward the shed was weighted with both fear and determination. The world beyond the porch seemed vast and uncertain, and she was no longer alone. Without warning, Max sprinted forward, his powerful legs carrying him over the uneven ground. His bark was sharp and commanding, a rallying cry that shook the stillness. Sarah hurried after him, heart pounding in her chest, breath coming in sharp bursts. The old shed loomed closer, its warped boards seeming to lean in, whispering secrets long forgotten. What had Max found? What awaited her just beyond the door? She paused at the edge of the shed, hand trembling as it reached for the door. The cold was deeper here, a void swallowing the faint glow of her flashlight. Her breath came out in soft clouds, mixing with the musty smell of old wood and damp earth. She could hear Max shifting beside her, low growls rumbling in his throat. Somewhere in the silence, something waited. A sudden creak echoed from within the shed, followed by a faint thud. The hairs on the back of Sarah's neck stood on end. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just an old shed filled with forgotten junk. Something was alive in the shadows, and Max's barking had been a warning, a call to uncover a truth that would shake everything she believed safe. With a deep breath, Sarah pushed open the door, stepping into the darkness and toward the unknown. After years of restless city life, Sarah had finally sought refuge in the quiet embrace of the countryside. The decision hadn't been easy, uprooting her young son, Tom, from familiar streets and schoolmates. But the constant noise, the shadows of her past, and the memories she wished to escape drove her to this isolated farmhouse on the edge of town. Here, the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth, and the sky stretched endlessly overhead. For Sarah, it was a chance to heal, to start anew. Tom was too young to fully understand the weight of their move, but he was curious, wide-eyed, and eager to explore the vast fields that stretched beyond their porch. Max had come into their lives as a trembling puppy rescued from a storm drain on the outskirts of the city. From the very first moment Sarah held him close, she felt an unspoken connection, a fragile promise of loyalty and protection. Max was more than a pet, he was a guardian for both Sarah and Tom. He followed them everywhere, always watchful, always alert. His gentle nudge when Sarah seemed lost in thought, the way he rested his head on Tom's lap during thunderstorms, these were the quiet moments that wove the threads of family tighter. In their solitude, the bond between human and dog grew, unbreakable and steadfast. Despite the serene surroundings, not everyone welcomed their arrival. Mr. Jenkins, the grizzled neighbor with wary eyes and a permanent scowl, watched them from a distance. His warnings were hushed but persistent. The shed at the property's edge wasn't just an old storage, it was a place whispered about in town lore. Rumors of disappearances, strange noises, and restless spirits clung to it like vines. "Best leave it be," he'd mutter, casting dark looks toward the structure. Sarah listened but chose to ignore the superstitions. Still, the shadows of those stories lingered in her mind, growing heavier with every bark from Max. The town itself seemed frozen in time. Cobblestone streets lined with weathered shops, a single diner where the locals gathered, and stretches of dense forest hugging its borders. It was a place where everyone knew everyone's business, and secrets were hard to keep. Years ago, the town had thrived on farming and logging, but the younger generation had long since fled to the cities, leaving behind a quiet community marked by resilience and whispered legends. The isolation that once offered peace now carried an undercurrent of loneliness, where the past never fully let go. Each day, Max fulfilled his silent duties with unwavering devotion. He accompanied Tom to the small schoolhouse, always at his side, watching over him like a shadow. At home, Max was attuned to Sarah's moods, a soft whine when she was weary, a protective stance when strangers approached. But lately his behavior had changed. There were moments when his eyes darted toward the trees, ears pricked to sounds unseen. He paced restlessly near the shed, refusing to enter the backyard alone. Sarah sensed that Max was sensing something beyond their understanding, a warning woven into his restless energy. Sarah's days were a balancing act, juggling the responsibilities of motherhood, a part-time job, and the echoes of a painful past that refused to fade. The loss of Tom's father had left a cavernous void, filled with guilt and grief that shadowed every decision. Nights were the hardest, when silence invited memories she fought to suppress. Yet, amidst the struggle, Sarah found strength in the small victories, Tom's laughter, Max's warm presence, and the promise of a new life in this quiet town. But the unease gnawing at her heart refused to be silenced. At the local diner, whispered conversations often circled back to the shed. An old missing person case from years before had never been solved. A young woman vanished without a trace, last seen near the property's edge. Some claimed to hear strange noises at night. Others spoke of shadows moving just beyond sight. These stories, half believed and steeped in fear, painted the shed as a gateway to secrets best left alone. Sarah caught fragments of these tales, their unsettling edges pricking at her curiosity and caution. One afternoon, Mr. Jenkins confronted Sarah near the property line, his voice low and urgent. "You don't know what you're meddling with," he warned, eyes flickering toward the shed. "That place holds pain, anger, things that don't rest easy." Sarah met his gaze, her resolve hardening. "I'm not afraid of ghosts," she replied softly. But deep down, she wondered if some shadows stretched longer than the night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Max's ears twitched at the faintest sound, a twig snapping, a distant rustle. His growl was low, almost imperceptible, but Sarah heard it. He circled the shed, nostrils flaring, eyes narrowed. The evening air grew thick with tension, the fading light casting long shadows that seemed to dance with unseen figures. Max's warning was clear. Something was there, just beyond reach. Sarah wrestled with the dual voices inside her, the logic telling her to dismiss fears as superstition and the primal instinct urging caution. Memories of past losses intertwined with Max's behavior, stirring a deep unease she couldn't shake. Each night, as she lay awake listening to the silence between Max's barks, the line between reality and fear blurred. Could she trust what her heart whispered, or was she chasing shadows? Tom, with his childlike honesty, noticed things Sarah tried to overlook. "Mom, Max looks scared sometimes," he said one evening, his small voice trembling. "Like he's trying to tell us something." His words echoed in Sarah's mind, a simple truth cutting through complexity. Max wasn't just a pet, he was a sentinel, a guardian signaling a danger no one else saw. Sarah's mind replayed the first night Max had barked nonstop, shattering the fragile peace. She remembered the pounding of her own heart, the way the house seemed to hold its breath. At the time, she had dismissed it as an overreaction, a dog spooked by an animal or the wind. But now, with each passing day, the urgency in Max's voice deepened, and so did her fear. The property bore marks of neglect, rusted tools scattered in the shed, peeling paint on the farmhouse, and overgrown weeds clutching at the fence. These physical signs mirrored the unseen secrets festering beneath the surface. Sarah noticed strange symbols etched faintly into the shed's wood and peculiar footprints in the dirt, clues that teased a story left untold. In the calm before nightfall, Sarah, Tom, and Max sat together on the porch swing. The world seemed still, their breaths mingling with the cool air. Max rested his head on Sarah's knee, a silent pillar of strength. In that fleeting peace, hope blossomed, that together they could weather whatever storm lay ahead. As stars emerged, twinkling against the vast sky, an uneasy feeling settled over the land. The shed's shadows stretched longer, darker, as if concealing something waiting to be uncovered. Max's gaze lingered there, unblinking, the first spark of a mystery that would change their lives forever. The morning sun spilled golden light across the dewy grass as Tom's laughter rang out, pure and bright. He tossed a worn tennis ball across the yard, his small hands eager and hopeful. Max crouched nearby, eyes alert, muscles coiled but relaxed, ready to spring at a moment's notice. With every bounce of the ball, Max's gaze flicked between Tom and the shadows edging the trees. The dog's protective presence was a silent promise. No harm would come to this boy while Max was here. Later that evening, Sarah sank onto the creaky porch swing, the weight of the day pressing on her chest. Max settled at her feet, his warm body a comforting anchor. "Some days feel heavier than others," she whispered, running a tired hand over Max's thick fur. The dog lifted his head, ears twitching, eyes soft but focused. To Sarah, Max wasn't just a pet, he was her confidant, a silent witness to her fears and hopes. In his steady company, she found a fleeting peace. But as night deepened, a change stirred within Max. He paced restlessly along the porch, his nails clicking against the wooden boards. The familiar calm shattered when a sharp bark pierced the silence, directed at the distant, weathered shed. His growls deepened, low and warning, as he backed away from the backyard gate, tail lowered and stiff. Something unseen disturbed his usual vigilance, a shadow lurking beyond the known. Sarah noticed the difference immediately. Maybe he's just tired old, she mused, concern knitting her brow. Yet, deep inside, a small voice urged caution. Max's behavior wasn't random. His instincts had saved them before. She recalled his puppy days, his uncanny ability to sense storms and strangers alike. But could she trust these signals now, or was she clinging to hope in a dog struggling with age? One afternoon, Tom tugged Sarah's sleeve, eyes wide with innocent certainty. "Mom, Max knows something scary's out there," he said, voice trembling. "He won't let me go near the shed." His words, simple yet profound, unsettled Sarah more than she expected. Children saw truths adults often overlooked. Could Tom's trust in Max's warnings be the key she was missing? The kitchen filled with the aroma of roasting chicken as the family gathered for dinner. Tom chattered about school, his cheeks flushed with excitement, while Sarah smiled tiredly, grateful for the moment's normalcy. Yet, Max sat silently by the doorway, eyes darting toward the window and then to the door. His body tense, the dog's unease seeped into the room, a quiet reminder that peace was fragile. That night, as Sarah tidied the living room, Max positioned himself near the hallway, muscles taut. His ears flicked toward distant sounds, a door creak, a whisper of wind. He paced slowly, then froze, eyes fixed on the hallway's end. Without a bark, he lowered himself to the floor, signaling caution. Sarah met his gaze, feeling the weight of unspoken communication. Danger lurked nearby, invisible but real. Under a moonless sky, Max circled the shed repeatedly, growling softly yet persistently. His breath misted in the cold air, nostrils flaring as he picked up scents undetectable to humans. His pacing quickened, paws digging at the earth, scratching at the old wooden door. The forest held its breath, shadows lengthening as the dog's anxiety mounted, warning of an approaching storm far darker than any weather. Sarah lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, heart racing in time with Max's restless movements downstairs. Every bark, every growl, sliced through the quiet night, unraveling her attempts at sleep. Memories of past losses whispered through her mind, mixing with the present unease. Was Max's warning real, or was her mind conjuring ghosts? The line blurred as dawn's pale fingers struggled through the curtains. Morning brought fleeting warmth and a quiet moment of tenderness. Tom found Max nestled beneath the kitchen table, eyes dull but trusting. "It's okay, boy," Tom whispered, rubbing the dog's ears gently. Max lifted his head, nuzzling the boy's hand, seeking solace. Their bond was unspoken but profound, an anchor amidst growing uncertainty. In that soft exchange, Sarah glimpsed the strength they all needed to face the unknown. The sun rose over the peaceful countryside, painting the fields with gold. Birds chirped lazily, and life moved at a gentle pace. Yet, as shadows retreated, the tension beneath simmered unseen. Max's vigilance never waned, a silent guardian straddling two worlds, the calm daylight and the threatening night. Sarah felt caught in the same rhythm, hope and fear entwined like vines around her heart. In the afternoon's soft light, Sarah brushed Max's thick coat, each stroke a soothing ritual. The dog leaned into her touch, eyes half closed, momentarily free from dread. In these quiet moments, words were unnecessary. The bond between them spoke volumes. Trust was their refuge, a fragile shield against the mysteries gathering like storm clouds beyond their door. That evening, Max stopped short at the backyard gate, his body rigid with refusal. He let out a low growl, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond. Sarah's voice softened, "It's just the yard boy." But Max's stance held firm, an unyielding warning. Something lurked there, something that tethered Max's courage with invisible chains. Pieces fell into place as Sarah observed Max's unwavering focus and growing agitation. His behavior was not mere anxiety or age catching up, it was a deliberate warning. The dog's instincts pierced the veil of the ordinary, urging Sarah to listen, to believe, to prepare. This was no ordinary disturbance, it was a call to action. The night descended again, thick and foreboding. Max took his place by the shed, ears pricked and eyes shining with fierce determination. His body was a fortress of silent protection. Sarah watched from the porch, heart pounding with a mix of dread and awe. Together, they waited, two souls bound by trust and courage, ready for whatever the night would bring. Night after night, Max's barking became an unyielding alarm that shattered the fragile peace of their rural home. His voice, sharp, urgent, almost desperate, echoed across the property, a call no one could ignore. More than once, Sarah found him pawing furiously at the ground near the shed, dirt flying like dark rain beneath his powerful paws. Each scrape and thud in the earth seemed to unearth layers not only of soil but of buried fear. Max's agitation wasn't mere restlessness, it was a warning, a beacon drawing her attention to secrets long concealed beneath the faded wood and rusted nails of the old structure. As the nights wore on, Sarah's worry deepened into fear. The disturbed earth near the shed wasn't natural. Something was hidden beneath, something desperate to remain unseen. One chilly evening, flashlight in hand, she knelt by the dug-up soil, fingers brushing against something cold and hard. Her breath hitched, a sudden chill running down her spine, not from the cold, but from the realization that the past was clawing its way back to the present. Every instinct screamed for her to walk away, but Max's unwavering gaze anchored her resolve. She wasn't just a mother protecting her child anymore, she was a seeker of truth, no matter the cost. The next morning, with the first light casting pale hues over the land, Sarah returned, determined to find answers. Among the disturbed soil, faint footprints marred the ground, prints too large to be animal, too deliberate to be casual trespass. As she followed the trail, her fingers brushed a cold metal edge buried just beneath the loose dirt. Heart pounding, she unearthed a small, rusted lockbox, its surface scarred and weathered by time. Inside, worn papers and faded photographs hinted at a story that reached far beyond the limits of the farm. The weight of forgotten secrets pressed down on her, thick as the morning fog. Word spread swiftly through the tight-knit community. Whispers gathered like a storm, warning Sarah to leave the past undisturbed. "Some things," old Mr. Jenkins muttered with a grave look, "are better left buried." Neighbors exchanged cautious glances and hushed tones, painting tales of tragedy and misfortune linked to the shed. The tension in the town thickened, as if the land itself bristled with unease. Sarah found herself isolated, caught between the pull of discovery and the weight of community disapproval. Yet, Max's restless presence reminded her that silence was no longer an option. Haunted by the unfolding mystery and sleepless nights, Sarah's mind wandered back to darker days. Memories of loss, the empty space where Tom's father once stood, the promises broken by fate, pressed heavily on her heart. Trust was fragile, easily shattered by betrayal and fear. Yet, amid the shadows of her past, Max's steady loyalty shone like a beacon. Each bark, each protective stance, was a reminder that she wasn't alone in her fight to protect her family and uncover the truth buried in the earth beneath them. One evening, as fog curled thickly over the fields, Max's ears pricked at an unfamiliar sound, a stealthy movement near the shed's shadow. His growl deepened, a rumble that vibrated through the cold night air. From the darkness emerged a figure, hesitant but intent, only to be met with Max's fierce bark and unwavering glare. The stranger retreated, melting back into the mist. Sarah watched from the porch, heart pounding, realizing the danger was no longer a story but a looming reality. Max was their first line of defense against forces determined to keep the past hidden. The growing tension culminated in a confrontation with Mr. Jenkins. His eyes, sharp and tired, bore into her as he urged caution. "You're stirring up ghosts, Sarah. This isn't your fight." But Sarah's voice trembled with newfound strength. "If I don't face it, who will? For my son, for Max, for me." The words hung heavy in the air, a fragile truce between fear and determination. Though the town recoiled in whispered judgment, Sarah felt a fierce clarity crystallize within, a resolve that no shadow could extinguish. Despite her growing courage, moments of doubt still seeped in like cold rain. Max, however, remained unwavering, a constant in a world of uncertainty. His gaze met hers in the darkest hours, filled with silent understanding and unyielding faith. When Sarah faltered, his presence steadied her, a living reminder that loyalty could overcome even the deepest fears. Together, they forged forward, bound by trust that transcended words. Under the cloak of darkness, Sarah made her way to the shed again, heart pounding but determined. Max by her side, she moved quietly through the night, each step a defiance against fear and doubt. The lockbox's secrets beckoned, pulling her deeper into a web of mystery and danger. With each visit, the lines between protector and seeker blurred, as mother and dog confronted shadows both external and within. At the local diner, voices lowered as Sarah entered. Conversations halted, eyes flickering with wary curiosity. Tales of vanished neighbors, unexplained sounds, and warnings passed through generations like a curse. "That shed," they murmured, "has swallowed more than memories." These stories, tinged with fear and fascination, wrapped around Sarah like a suffocating fog, testing her resolve and fueling her quest for answers. One stormy night, Sarah carefully unfolded yellowed papers from the lockbox, her hands trembling. Cryptic notes, scrawled in faded ink, hinted at secrets kept and truths buried. Words like betrayal, danger, and silence surfaced amidst the handwriting swirl. The notes suggested a conspiracy reaching far beyond the farm's borders, challenging everything Sarah thought she knew. Max's low growl reminded her of the stakes. Some secrets demanded a price. Just as Sarah settled into uneasy peace, Max's barking erupted again, sharp and insistent. The dog's focus was fierce, body rigid as he stood guard. From the darkness came the faintest sound, footsteps, whispered voices, a warning carried on the wind. The calm shattered, replaced by a palpable tension that threaded through the night. Danger was near, closing in with silent footsteps and shadowed intent. Torn between fear and conviction, Sarah grappled with the weight of her choices. Could she protect Tom and Max if she pushed forward? What price would they pay for unearthing buried truths? Her nights became battlegrounds of doubt and hope, the desire for justice clashing with the primal urge to shield her loved ones. Yet, the call for truth whispered louder, compelling her beyond comfort's fragile borders. One evening, a stranger approached the property under the veil of dusk. Max's body stiffened instantly, hackles rising as he positioned himself between Sarah and the unknown figure. His growl warned of unseen threats, his eyes blazing with fierce loyalty. Sarah stood firm, heart racing, as the visitor's intentions remained cloaked in shadows. The moment crystallized the peril they faced and the unspoken bond that would see them through. In the quiet hours before dawn, Sarah made her decision. No longer would she hide behind fear or silence. For Tom, for Max, and for herself, she would confront the shadows that had long haunted their lives. Strength rippled through her veins, fueled by the dog's unwavering faith and the promise of justice. Together, they stepped into the unknown, ready to uncover the truth, whatever it might cost. On the night that would change everything, Max stood sentinel beside the shed, his bark unrelenting and fierce. The air crackled with tension, charged with the weight of secrets ready to surface. Sarah watched with clenched fists and a pounding heart, knowing that this was more than a dog's instinct. It was a silent call to courage, a summons to face the darkness head-on. With dawn breaking and resolve solidifying, Sarah stepped forward to unveil the truth. Fear clashed with determination as she pushed open the shed door, the light illuminating years of secrets. Max by her side, she knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The past could no longer hide, and justice would be their path forward. In the quiet aftermath, Sarah knelt before Tom, eyes shimmering with tears and resolve. "We're stronger than the fears that try to hold us back," she whispered. Tom nodded, clutching Max's collar, their bond a beacon of hope. "Max knows when to protect," Tom said softly. "And we have to listen." Their words echoed the truth that had carried them through darkness, trust, courage, and the power of love. Max sat quietly beside Sarah, eyes fixed on the shed with unwavering intensity. His presence was both comfort and warning, a reminder that some truths spoke louder without words. As Sarah readied herself to step into the shadows, Max's gentle nudge grounded her, their silent dialogue sealing the unbreakable pact to face whatever lay hidden together. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp wood and earth as Sarah crouched beside the shed's weathered foundation. Max sat alert by her side, ears twitching at every distant sound. Her fingers traced a loose plank, revealing a narrow gap. Heart pounding, she pushed the board aside, revealing a hidden trapdoor embedded in the dirt floor. The sudden chill rising from the opening sent a shiver down her spine. Max's eyes locked onto hers, filled with quiet resolve. Whatever lay beneath, they were ready to face it together. A faint beam from Sarah's flashlight cut through the darkness as she carefully lowered herself into the cramped space below. Max's paws padded silently behind her, his nostrils flaring as he absorbed every scent. Around them, the walls bore faded scratches and damp patches. Scattered on the floor were personal belongings: a worn leather journal, a faded photograph of a young woman, a broken locket glinting faintly. Each item whispered fragments of a long-buried story, painting a chilling picture of fear, betrayal, and silence. Sarah gingerly picked up the journal, its pages brittle but legible. Inside, a desperate voice poured out, tales of secrets kept, warnings ignored, and a darkness that had seeped into the very heart of the town. Letters folded within told of threats, disappearances, and pleas for justice. As she read, the weight of the conspiracy settled heavily upon her. This was no simple tragedy. It was a web woven by powerful hands, desperate to remain hidden. Max's low growl echoed her growing dread, a reminder that danger was closer than ever. A creak shattered the silence, and a shadow flickered at the entrance. Sarah's breath caught as a figure emerged, face obscured by the dim light but eyes sharp and threatening. "You shouldn't be here," the voice hissed, a venomous warning. Max growled fiercely, stepping protectively in front of Sarah. The intruder advanced, the air thick with menace. Fear and adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins. This was the moment when courage would either break or bind them. Max lunged forward, teeth bared, growling a fierce warning. The stranger stumbled back, caught off guard by the dog's unwavering defense. Sarah stood behind Max, heart pounding, tears stinging her eyes. The dog's fierce loyalty was a shield, a silent vow that no harm would come to his family. In that instant, Max was not just a pet, he was a guardian, a hero fighting a battle beyond words. With trembling hands, Sarah pulled out her phone and dialed, whispering urgent words into the receiver. "There's someone here, a threat, evidence? I need help." The line crackled, voices on the other end promising immediate response. Every moment felt suspended, the weight of the past, the present danger, and the hope for justice all converged. Max's vigilant stance never wavered, anchoring her courage in a storm of uncertainty. Time stretched thin as footsteps echoed outside the hidden chamber. The stranger's silhouette darkened the entrance once more, movements sharp and calculating. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, each breath shallow and urgent. Max's growls filled the cramped space, a low warning that warned of impending peril. The air was thick with anticipation, the fragile line between capture and escape, between silence and revelation, trembling on the edge. As the stranger lunged forward, Max reacted instinctively, teeth snapping, paws striking. Chaos erupted in the confined space, shadows clashing with frantic movements. Sarah scrambled to her feet, guiding Tom away from danger. Max's growls echoed as he intercepted, buying precious seconds. The narrow passageways became a battleground, but Max's courage carved a path to safety. Their escape was desperate but fueled by trust that no matter the darkness, they would face it together. Outside, breathless and trembling, Sarah wrapped her arms around Max, her tears mingling with the night air. "You saved us," she whispered, voice thick with gratitude and awe. Max leaned into her touch, eyes soft yet shining with the fierce pride of a protector. In that silent exchange, a bond deeper than words was sealed, a promise of unwavering loyalty and shared resilience, forged in the fire of danger. As sirens wailed in the distance, the stranger was apprehended, face finally revealed as a well-known figure in the town. A person once trusted, now unmasked by truth. The community breathed collectively, the veil of fear lifting as justice dawned. Sarah and Max's courage had unearthed secrets that had festered too long, illuminating the shadows with hard-won light. The fight was far from over, but a vital victory had been claimed. In the aftermath, Max stood sentinel near the shed, one paw injured but stance unwavering. His eyes, though clouded with pain, held the same fierce spirit that had led them through the darkness. Sarah watched him, heart swelling with a mix of sorrow and pride. This silent hero had carried them through the storm, a guardian marked by sacrifice, unyielding courage, and unspoken love. Under a blanket of stars, Sarah knelt beside Max, tears streaming freely. "Thank you," she breathed, voice breaking, "for every warning, every fight, every moment you stood by us." Her hand stroked his fur gently, a tribute to the dog who never spoke but said everything with his heart. The quiet heroism of Max would forever be etched in her soul, a legacy of love and loyalty that no darkness could ever erase. The town began to breathe anew, releasing years of buried fears and unspoken sorrows. Conversations once hushed were now spoken aloud, healing wounds with the balm of truth. Sarah's bravery had cracked open the walls of silence, allowing the community to face its past and move forward together. Max, ever watchful, remained a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, light can be found. As dawn broke over the hills, a sense of peace began to settle. The burden of secrets lifted, replaced by cautious optimism. Families reunited, apologies spoken, and new bonds forged in the aftermath of revelation. Sarah, Tom, and Max stood at the heart of this transformation, a family rebuilt through trust, courage, and the unbreakable bond of love. The sun rose higher, casting golden light over the farm and the once ominous shed. The shadows receded, replaced by the warmth of justice and healing. Sarah's voice, steady and hopeful, echoed softly, "We faced the darkness and found our way back to the light." Max lay beside her, eyes closed in peaceful rest, a silent guardian watching over a future reclaimed. Their story was far from over, but the promise of tomorrow shone brighter than ever. The crisp morning air was filled with a quiet sense of gratitude as neighbors gathered near the town square, their faces etched with respect and relief. Banners fluttered gently in the breeze, and a humble plaque stood waiting to commemorate the courage of a woman and her loyal dog. Sarah stood at the center, holding Tom's small hand tightly, while Max sat patiently by her side, his coat still bearing the faint scars of his bravery. One by one, the townsfolk offered nods, smiles, and heartfelt thanks, a collective healing beginning to take root after years of silence and fear. At home, the atmosphere shifted from tension to tenderness. Tom played with his favorite toy in the sunlight streaming through the window, laughter bubbling freely as Sarah watched with a smile softened by relief. The trauma of uncertainty began to dissolve, replaced by a cautious peace. Each shared glance between mother and son was a silent promise. They were safe now, and together, They would rebuild the fragile trust that darkness had threatened to shatter. Max lay comfortably on a thick blanket, his leg bandaged but spirit unbroken. A kind vet's gentle hands examined him, while Sarah murmured reassurances. News of Max's heroism had spread far beyond their small town, and awards and letters poured in recognizing the dog's unwavering loyalty. Yet Max remained humble, his eyes fixed on Sarah, the only one whose approval mattered. In his quiet way, Max had become a symbol not just of bravery, but of the unspoken bond that had saved a family. In the quiet moments between public praise and daily care, Sarah found time to reflect. The weight of the past still lingered, but it no longer held her captive. Through fear, loss, and relentless courage, she had discovered reserves of strength she never knew existed. With Max's steady presence and Tom's innocent hope, Sarah saw a future bright with possibility, a life rebuilt on trust, love, and the promise of healing. Walls of suspicion slowly crumbled as once skeptical neighbors approached Sarah with hesitant apologies and genuine offers of support. The shared ordeal had softened old wounds, knitting the community closer in unexpected ways. Conversations that once avoided the painful past now acknowledged the truth, opening pathways to understanding and reconciliation. Sarah greeted these gestures with cautious optimism, aware that healing was a process, but hopeful it had finally begun. Evenings were filled with quiet moments of togetherness, Sarah reading softly while Max rested his head on Tom's lap, the boy's fingers tracing gentle patterns along the dog's fur. The house felt warmer, infused with a renewed sense of safety and belonging. These small, tender interactions spoke volumes, affirming that love and loyalty could mend even the deepest scars. In their shared silence, the family found strength. The old shed, once a place of fear and secrets, was finally dismantled. The land was cleared, tilled, and prepared for new growth. Each turning of the soil symbolized a break from the past, a cleansing ritual to restore peace and hope. As the first seedlings sprouted, Sarah stood with Max and Tom, feeling the weight of old sorrows lift with the morning sun. The property breathed new life just as they had. In the quiet solitude of a late afternoon, Sarah made a promise to herself and her family. They would stay, not to be haunted by what had been, but to embrace what could be. The hardships endured had forged a resilience stronger than fear. With Max ever vigilant and Tom growing brighter each day, Sarah felt rooted and ready to build a life marked by love, safety, and the quiet joy of new beginnings. Max's strength returned with each passing day. Though the scars of battle remained, they were badges of honor. His watchful eyes and alert ears remained ever vigilant, a steadfast guardian over the family he had sworn to protect. Sarah often caught him sitting silently by the window at dusk, as if still listening for whispers of danger that no longer came. Max was more than a dog, he was the heart of their home. As twilight descended, Sarah's voice softened over a quiet scene of family warmth and peaceful night. In a world filled with shadows and secrets, sometimes the loudest voices are the silent ones. Max never said a word, but he knew before anyone else. His loyalty carried us through the darkest nights, reminding us that trust and love are the strongest light we have. The camera lingered on Max's serene face, eyes closed in contentment, a silent guardian resting after a long vigil. The faint crackle of the fireplace mingled with the quiet night as Sarah sat alone in the dimly lit living room. Memories of her late partner flooded her mind. His laughter, the warmth of his touch, and the devastating night when everything changed. The silence that followed his absence was deafening, leaving her to navigate the storm of grief and responsibility alone. This loss forged a fierce protectiveness in her heart, especially for Tom and Max. It was a shield against the fear of losing anyone else, fueling her determination to keep her small family safe no matter the cost. The scene shifted to a rainy city street, where a tiny, shivering German Shepherd puppy huddled beneath a crumbling bridge. Sarah's voiceover told the story of that cold evening when she found Max abandoned and frightened, his eyes reflecting a wisdom that seemed beyond his months. From that moment, Max's instincts were sharpened by hardship, the learned need to be vigilant, to protect, to survive. These early trials etched a silent strength into his soul, preparing him for the challenges that lay ahead with Sarah and Tom. As the memories unfolded, the link between Sarah's past and present grew clear. The loss she endured had shaped her into a woman capable of extraordinary courage, even when fear threatened to consume her. Max's own history of survival mirrored her journey. Both were silent warriors battling invisible demons. Together, they formed an unbreakable alliance, each drawing strength from the other to face the darkness creeping ever closer. A soft flashback to a tender moment between Sarah and young Tom revealed a vow whispered in the quiet of a night fraught with uncertainty. "I promise, no matter what happens, I will protect you," she said, holding him close. Tom's wide eyes searched hers, trusting and hopeful. This promise became a guiding light through the unfolding chaos, a foundation upon which Sarah built every decision, fierce, unwavering, and fueled by love. The tapestry of memory wove scenes of warmth, family dinners, laughter echoing in sunlit rooms. Max curled contentedly at her partner's feet. These moments of peace, now distant, underscored the fragility of happiness and the depths of loss. Yet, they also served as reminders of what was worth fighting for, a life filled with love, companionship, and the promise of new beginnings despite the shadows. Sarah's inner narration reflected on the healing power of trust, in oneself, in loved ones, and in the silent, steadfast presence of a loyal dog. Resilience was not the absence of pain but the courage to move forward despite it. This truth resonated deeply as she prepared to confront the mysteries that threatened her family. Trusting Max's instincts, trusting her own strength, and trusting the uncertain path ahead became her anchors in a sea of doubt. Scenes of Max's early training flashed briefly, commands learned, instincts honed, a disciplined mind forged by necessity. Though rescued from hardship, Max's past included moments of care and instruction that shaped his protective nature. This foundation of training blended seamlessly with his intuitive loyalty, making him not only a companion but a guardian uniquely equipped to face the dangers lurking around their home. As the memories receded, Sarah's gaze hardened with resolve. The past had taught her lessons etched in pain and love, but it would not define her future. With Max beside her, she embraced the coming challenges with a steady heart. The shadows no longer held power over her. She was ready to uncover the truth, whatever it might reveal, and to protect her family fiercely. A lingering shot revealed a faded photograph tucked inside the journal, a family portrait with a young woman whose eyes mirrored Sarah's own. A faint inscription hinted at promises broken and secrets kept. These subtle clues wove a connection between past tragedies and the unfolding mystery, promising deeper revelations and tying the threads of the story together with haunting grace. The scene closed with Sarah's soft voiceover. "Sometimes, fate brings us together with silent guardians, those who speak not with words but with unwavering loyalty." Max never said a word, but he knew before anyone else. The camera lingered on Max's serene face, eyes closed in peaceful vigilance. Their journey was far from over, but the bond between them was a beacon of hope, lighting the way through the darkest nights. The twilight sky painted hues of soft lavender and gold as Sarah's voice carried gently over the scene of their peaceful home. "Max never spoke a word," she began, her tone tender yet filled with awe. "But every bark, every glance, every moment of silence held a language only we could understand." Her eyes rested on Max lying by the fireplace, his breaths slow and even. "His intuition saved us, guiding us through darkness we didn't even know existed. It was his silent courage that stood as our shield." The words hung like a sacred vow, a tribute to a hero who needed no words to tell his story. Sarah continued, her narration weaving the unspoken truth about the connection between humans and their canine companions. "We often forget that dogs live in a world beyond words, a world of scent, emotion, and silent understanding. They see what we cannot, hear what escapes our ears, and feel what our hearts try to hide. The camera lingered on Max's gentle eyes, reflecting a wisdom that transcended the ordinary. It's a bond forged in trust and love, an invisible thread that binds souls together. The story of Max and Sarah was but one thread in a vast tapestry of loyalty that dogs have shared with humans for centuries. In a quiet, reverent tone, Sarah's voice painted the profound role dogs play in our lives. They are silent guardians, watching, waiting, protecting without expectation or complaint. Their loyalty is pure, born from instinct but nurtured by love. They bear our burdens without words, comforting us in ways no human can. The scene shifted to Max standing watch at the window, ears twitching at a distant sound, ever vigilant. Sometimes, the greatest heroes don't need a voice. Their actions speak louder than words ever could. Sarah's voice softened, inviting the audience to reflect on their own bonds. If this story has touched your heart, remember to cherish those silent guardians in your own life. Listen to their warnings, trust their instincts, and honor the loyalty they offer so freely. In a world filled with noise, their quiet presence is a treasure beyond measure. The camera showed tender moments, a hand stroking fur, a dog's trusting gaze, the simple joy of companionship. A poignant pause filled the air before Sarah's closing words. Not all heroes wear capes or shout their victories. Some watch in silence, waiting patiently for the moment to protect, to save, to love without conditions. Max's silhouette appeared against the setting sun, regal and calm. He never said a word, but he knew before anyone else. The weight of those words lingered, a powerful reminder of the invisible guardians among us. Sarah's voice grew hopeful and warm as she addressed the viewers directly. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who believes in silent heroes. Subscribe for more stories that honor the extraordinary bonds we share with animals. And consider supporting local animal rescue efforts, because every dog deserves a chance to be someone's guardian. The screen faded to a gentle graphic urging kindness and action, linking the story to a broader message of compassion. The final visuals showed Max resting peacefully on a soft blanket by the fire, his breathing slow and content. Outside, the night sky shimmered with stars, endless and watchful. The calmness of the scene whispered of hope, love, and the quiet power of loyalty. Max's eyes slowly closed as the camera pulled back, the silhouette of a silent guardian standing watch over the family he had saved and loved.